Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Ivy. I am the Associate Artistic Director here at Village Theater. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our third live happy hour chat. We've had a couple artists, and we have another one joining us today. He's a dear old friend of mine who has been a music director at Village Theater for many, many, many shows. I've actually counted them up, and we're going to talk about them. But joining me here today is the esteemed RJ Tancioco.
Esteemed? Wow. Okay.
You're very esteemed.
Oh my gosh.
You're very, very esteemed. How are you, RJ?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing pretty good, but I'm hanging in there like everybody else.
Yeah. How is your quarantine going?
Good. Good as far as quarantining goes. Doing a lot of cleaning and like organizing and a little bit of prep work for stuff that's coming up in the fall and beyond, but like really just relaxing more than anything. So
Yeah,
trying to watch movies and stuff. So
that's good. So everyone that's watching, we've got a couple people that have poked their heads in. You can. This is RJ Tancioco. He's a music director at Village Theater. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about his career and about some shows that he's done. Feel free to give us some likes or some loves or anything like that. If anyone has questions that they'd like answered, or if you want to make a comment or anything, you can do that in the comments list or the comments field. And if we find something we want to talk about, we totally will. We've already gotten one from Mr. Matt Glover.
Hi, Matt. People are asking me how they get on. Somebody texted me, like not via StreamYard, but like somebody texted me how to find this.
This is just on. Everyone can tell their friends. This is just on our Village Theater page. If anyone logs on to Village Theater, they will the Village Theater Facebook page. That's where it will be. So RJ, we go way back.
Yep.
We went back to, is it 2001?
I think it's 2001.
I think it was 2001.
Yep.
I was still in high school.
Oh my gosh.
And we did the Village main stage production of Peter Pan.
Yes, we did. Oh my
God. RJ, apparently your voice is a little quiet, so if you can either speak a little louder or get a little closer to your phone.
Okay, I'm gonna be closer.
Great.
I'm gonna talk louder. There we go. Is that better?
Yes. I can hear you just fine, but okay, everybody let us know in the comments if you're having trouble hearing or seeing or anything like that. Okay. Thanks, Naomi, for the heads up.
Hi, Naomi.
So we met doing this production of Peter Pan at Village that starred Lisa Estridge and Timothy Piguet as Peter Pan.
Yes, we did.
That was a wild production.
That was a wild production. That was it's such a, I don't know, original production of Peter Pan, because we had such an exciting kind of duo, Peter Pan and Captain Hook. So we kind of had to make it their own, and it was really fun to put that show together. And I don't remember having so much fun with just those two. I mean, everybody else was great, but creating the world around them was just like really a blast. Plus, it was like the holiday season, so everybody was in great spirits anyway. But I don't know if you remember, Brandon, that whole cast like got along pretty well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was like a wide range of ages, but I just remember doing a lot of like celebrating and partying with a lot of different groups of people for that show. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that there has never been a Peter Pan like Lisa Estridge.
Sorry.
Describe, for those that don't know Lisa, describe Lisa's personality.
Oh my gosh. Lisa Estridge is one of those actors who's just unpredictably rambunctious and joyful and risky and just wonderful on stage and off stage. She's a burst of energy, and she kind of makes every role that she does her own. Plus, she can sing and she can act and she can, dance, and it's just a really special time. In fact, I don't know if some of you knew, but she was supposed to be Dolores in Sister Act at the Fifth Avenue Theater. So if that gives you an idea of her personality, that's a good example of who Lisa Estridge is.
Yeah, and her and
Yep.
Timothy are like best friends. I think isn't Timothy her daughter's godfather?
Yes, I believe so.
So
Yes,
then on
I'm
stage
not
with
wrong. I'm pretty sure.
Um,
Yeah.
why don't you talk us through, because you have a kind of interesting way of getting to being a music director.
True.
So why don't you talk a little bit about how that happened?
Sure. Let's see. Back when I was born.
And RJ, while you're doing that,
Yeah.
you're going to go solo for a minute while you tell this story, because I'm having some microphone issues. So I'm going to let you tell the story, and I'm going to hop off for just a second so people don't have to see me like rustling around.
Perfect. Great. Okay. All right. So let's see. When did I start? I started. I don't know. I always performed as a kid. Like I remember like in the fourth grade, I had a solo in like this show called like the Evening of Entertainment at St. Joseph School in Seattle, and I auditioned for the solo. It's like the Peppermint Twist, if you guys know that song. And I got the solo, and I got to wear like a white suit with like peppermint stripes and like lead the whole fourth grade class in this like song and dance number. It's like a one night only for the whole school. And I think once I did that, I was kind of hooked doing it. But that, I mean, that's like my performing side. And that kind of, got me through like grade school and high school. I began to play the piano more like for fun. And I would like play at cast parties. I also played for a church. I played for like family gatherings. A lot of it was self-taught, but I mean, my grandma also taught me how to play piano, so I owe a lot to her. She's the one who got me started. I think it was my junior year in high school. Yes, I think it was junior or senior year in high school. There was a student who said that I should audition for this kid stage program at Village Theater in Issaquah. And now, like this whole time, I've kind of just done the high school thing where like that, you do the same show with the same people. But he's like, it's like a conservatory style summer program for young people. I think you'd be great. And I'm like, sure, why not? So I auditioned and I got in. And I'm glad I did, because it was the last year I could do it, because of age range. So I performed that year, but then during rehearsal, I would also play the piano. And then they were like, you should. Brandon, do you remember Candace Kopelke? I don't know if you
Oh
do.
yes, I
Okay,
can.
great.
Oh yes.
So Candace, I think, saw me in rehearsal or something playing the piano, and he's like, "You should think about like music directing this next year, because, we have this program where you could also be a kid or a young adult and do this program." And so it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat was the show the following year, and I'm like, sure, why not? So I found a production team and we got together and I did that, and the show was really fun. Shout out to all those people, and I will embarrass Tim Simons because he was in that show as
Tim
a
Simons.
performer.
For
The
those that don't
music
know,
director, Tim
Tim
Simons, as well.
Simons is Village Theater's resident music director.
Yes, and we still joke about that summer. And Chris Jones also played bass, who still plays bass in the orchestra at Village Theater. Anyway, so I did that show. It was really fun. It was really great. And Steve Tompkins saw that show and started to ask me if I wanted to do something like a couple fundraisers for Village or something like that. And I'm like,
And Steve is our former artistic director of 25 years.
thank you. I think from there it just kind of snowballed. Now I went to college still after that, and I have like a business degree. I have a marketing degree, but but I also did like choir and I did shows in college. And
But that's what you started doing out of college, was marketing.
I did. So I started like village theatering, like small gigs, like keyboard two, a couple of um what like one night only performances, kind of like gala type performances. And then I eventually, like my senior year in college, I had built a good relationship with Steve Tompkins at that point, and he asked me to music direct Little Shop of Horrors for their main stage.
Legendary production.
Like,
Legendary.
seriously, I was in college and I had no idea what I was doing, and that happened. And I'm like, I have a marketing degree, so I I still did marketing. Like, I still had like a day job after college, but I always did choir and I did church and I did rehearsals and I did Little Shop of Horrors. And from then on, it kind of, snowballed into more productions at Village. And then eventually Fifth Avenue saw my work at Village. They recruited me to do their inaugural production of Hair. I think that was one of their first like fully local productions. That was 2002 now. I think
Yes,
it's
I definitely
right.
think that was when very soon after David Armstrong took over at the Fed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. David saw I did the one of the productions that I hang my hat on. I was doing Joseph again. That show is magical for me. I was doing Joseph again at Village now on the main stage.
Also
Yes.
legendary production. Legendary. This show has literally gone down in legend at Village Theater.
And Lisa Estridge was actually the narrator. You guys might know Cheyenne Jackson. He played Joseph in that show, and Lewis Hobson was in that. I mean, there's many people in that show who've gone to Chad Jennings. There's like lots of careers from that production, and David Armstrong saw it and enjoyed what we did, and asked me to like meet with him to talk about they're doing a production of Hair.
Yeah, and
And
since then, I went and counted, RJ. Since then, you have done 31 main stage music direction shows
at like
at Village.
just Village.
Yeah, just at Village, you've done 31, and that's only music directing. I'm not counting playing in the pit. I'm not talking like arranging. I'm not talking assistant music director. That's just music directing on the
Okay.
main stage. That's
And
so
like,
many shows.
no, I'm just old. I don't know.
No one will ever. RJ is actually 101 years old. No one will ever
Mhm.
know.
Yep, I am.
But some of the most recent ones that are sort of like our big hits have been like Hairspray, Newsies, Dreamgirls, In the
Gosh.
Heights, Les
Oh yeah,
Mis.
yeah. Those were so just dream shows. Like for a while there, it was like one dream show after another, and I was
Yeah,
like pinching
incredible.
myself doing them. I mean, like seriously, it's been a dream.
So for those that might not know, talk us through a little bit of what the job description of a music director is.
Okay, so music directors start usually with like casting. So you meet with the director, choreographer, and the three of you usually like talk about the concept of the show, and you together, usually in the same room, sometimes not always in the same room. You begin to audition people to match the vision that you all three have of the show, the sound you want, the voices you want, actors you want, dancers, and you begin to build a company. And then that's like all pre-rehearsal. When you start rehearsal, the main job of the music director is to teach the music, like direct the music. And that includes, pounding out notes and or coaching an actor through a song or finding the right key for a song. Typically about like 2 or 3 weeks into that process, you begin to rehearse. The music director begins to rehearse with the orchestra, and that's like a separate rehearsal, usually like before the actor rehearsal. So you have like some long days in there, and then you rehearse the orchestra, and then usually what happens next is like a tech rehearsal where you put the elements together, the set, costumes, lights, actors on stage finally, and then the orchestra joins. And like that's one of my favorite days. Is like it's called Sitzprobe or Vonderprobe, depending on if you're gonna dance the show or you're just gonna sing the show. And you kind of jam with the orchestra for the first time. It's really fun. And then pretty soon after that, you start previewing. And at this point, some music directors stay with the show and conduct the show till the end and maintain the integrity, the sound and everything. Some leave and hand it over to like an associate or a first keyboardist or something or someone, and they can just kind of watch from the audience. So I love it when I get to stay with the show and kind of see it in fruition, especially with like a place like Village where the runs are so like long. They're typically 6 weeks in Issaquah and like another 4 weeks in Everett. Sometimes it's longer in Issaquah depending on what slot you're in. And it's nice to kind of like be with the show and like for me like celebrate it every night. There's always something new that comes up, and the audiences are always new, so it's fun. And there are harder days too to get the show going, but for the most part I really like staying with the show and kind of maintaining it to the end.
And so now one part of the job that is relatively new, and like I think a lot of people might not realize that this is part of the job that I think is super interesting, is the technology that is now involved in music directing.
Oh yeah.
Which involves like click tracking and tracking vocals sometimes. Like for like I know for like a really really big dance show like Newsies, there were some backing tracks so that they can do all these crazy flips and stuff, and then there's a little bit of like support under them.
Right. Yeah.
Talk through how that kind of works and what that situation's like.
So the many schools have thought about vocal click tracks, and this is mine. So if you disagree, it's okay. This is what I think of it. I think vocal click tracks are there to hold the orchestra and the cast accountable for tempos, and also to support the sound of the show. They are never in place of the sound of the show, or like you can't swap. You can't just have vocal click tracks and not have people singing. I just don't believe in that idea. I like vocal click tracks because they sweeten the show and they support the show. And many different theaters have different challenges when it comes to sound. And people who come through the door and watch the show, they expect a certain quality because either they've listened to the cast album or they just want it to be, like listening with their headphones on, basically. And vocal sweeteners are there to support sometimes cast members leaving the stage, changing costume really quick for the next scene, or if they're like Brandon said, like if you're like jumping up and down, you're upside down, or whatever, there's some kind of sweetener. When I do my shows that have vocals in it, I also have backstage people singing. So and I know some people are probably laughing right now who are like in Dreamgirls and Hairspray, because they're like, why are we still singing if you already have like vocal sweeteners? And I'm like, because it's live.
Here's Shane. Here's Shane, who was in Newsies.
Oh, Shane.
Shane was not a dancing newsie. Shane was one of the singing newsies that didn't dance at all.
I'll give that example. So in Newsies, this is a great example. In Newsies, those vocal parts for those Newsies are so high. They're like belting G's and A's and C's, I guess, almost all the time. And the way, even because I asked people who had been on Broadway, so they had the adults in the show who were also other characters be backstage Newsy singers. So part of backstage,
we're getting all the cast members are giving us sass.
Part of the requirement of casting those adults was like, can you sing these notes? And it's not always all super tenors, although we got really lucky. We had a great crew of people back there, and they are singing while the Newsies are jumping and like spinning and flying on stage. That's just the nature of that show.
And this is not an uncommon thing, like in a chorus line. So in a chorus line, there's that whole big opening number, and all the dancers that don't make it then go down and sing in the pit.
Yep. You got it. And so that's like the vocal clicks. But honestly, for a lot of the songs in Hairspray, they were just there for tempo. Because what happens with like rock musicals, pop musicals, even Newsies, where like, choreography is like very specifically a certain meter so that those tricks can be done consistently for 80 plus shows. So the metronome clicks that I also like building, those are just clicks in like my headphones and the whole orchestra, and I build those before we start running through the show. And it's basically like a tick tock tick, just like a metronome in your ear, so that that orchestra members can play along consistently every night. So like, my joke is like, on a Sunday night after like 7 shows, one of the newsies comes up to me and says, "Hey, wasn't that tempo slow today?" And I'm like, "No, you're just like high on caffeine." Or, "Wasn't that tempo
Well,
fast today?" Well,
speaking of high on caffeine, I'm going to give you
yeah.
like a little bit of shade, RJ. You don't do this
Oh,
anymore, but you know exactly what I'm going to say.
oh my
When
god.
during Peter Pan, RJ drank Mountain Dew. That was like right. It was Mountain Dew, right?
Mountain Dew.
That
Yep.
was like RJ's main thing. And there was like a big dance number at the end of Act 2. Uh, that sometimes would be super fast, and we always knew it was because RJ had a Mountain Dew at
Oh
intermission.
no. Oh no. Oh gosh, my metabolism can't take it anymore. It's like I literally shake now if I drink. I don't know, but then I was young and I don't know, just energetic, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
For
that was a
those
time.
that are just joining us, I'm here with RJ Tancioco, who is one of our favorite and regular music directors at Village Theater. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them down in the comment field, and we'll try to get to them. One of the things I wanted to talk about during this is that, sorry guys, I think my mic is freaking out a little bit. It sounds like it to me, but
It
we're gonna
sounds
like.
really good, Brendan. For
Oh,
me,
okay.
yeah,
For some reason, for me, it's like
it's
freaking out.
clearer
But
now than it was earlier.
well,
Actually,
good. Well, good.
yeah.
One of the other things that you do as a music director that kind of gets into like another world is you are also really, really talented at arranging and orchestrating. And that's just like a thing. That's part of what made that Joseph so exciting, that we did at Village, and it comes in handy incredibly when you're working on new musicals. And there's one. So like when I say arranging, why don't you like explain to people what I mean when I say arranging?
Okay, so arranging, it's like I would say 95%. Sorry, 5% creating something brand new, but 95% doing something with what's already there, right? That's my philosophy. So when I'm arranging something for, like, hey, a composer writes a song, they're not really a piano player, they're like more like a vocalist or a guitar player. Here's like a lead sheet with like the melody and some chords. So arranging for something like that would be taking that and going, okay, what do you want this to feel like? Do you want this to be like a ballad or a pop up tempo or like funk, or what do you want? And then on the piano, I would like play like an accompaniment figure for it and begin to really kind of like flesh out the momentum and the spirit of the song. So arranging is very like meta in a way, where you have to kind of pull from like what you know about the song, what you know about the composer, what you know about that kind of style of music, and then putting it together and kind of fleshing it out for that particular show or moment or whatnot. Like I think another part of arranging is also like taking a song that is already created and enhancing it for your cast. So let's say you want to make this a 3-part medley, the three vocal part medley, where you take the melody and you add harmony to it, you add vocal parts. So that's part of arranging too. So it's not just instrumental, it's also vocal. Did I answer your question? I don't
Yeah,
know.
oh, absolutely. I think so. And people, if you have questions about that, like ask them in the comments, and we'll get to them. I wanted to actually focus on one particular show that most recently has shown off your arranging skills, and it's actually we worked on it together, and
Yeah.
it was actually the first show that I ever directed at
Yes.
Village. Can you believe
That's
that?
the
Isn't that
first
weird?
show?
That's so weird. Yeah.
That is weird.
I know, so weird.
But you've worked on other shows. I think the
Oh
first
yeah. I've been
solo.
working at
Yeah.
but
I was like solo directing. Okay, great.
was Pump Boys and Dinettes that we did at Village back in, I think, 2016.
2016.
Which, for
Yep.
those that don't know Pump Boys, it's a little bit of an oddity in musical theater in that it's like sort of a musical review, or it's like sort of like a collection of songs that also has like a vague storyline. It has characters more than storylines. Anyways, it's really a collection of these really awesome, fun songs, and it's
Yeah.
all. How would you describe like the original sound of the show? It's sort of like 80s
Bluegrass,
bluegrass country,
like
and very 80s,
very 80s in like style and energy.
but like 80s country, not like
Like,
80s
yeah,
pop,
yeah, yep,
right? 80s country.
yeah.
And it's normally done with where a couple of the there's, I think there's 6 cast members,
I think so.
and normally
Two
like
women, 3 men,
3
5
men,
plus
something like that. There's like six ish, 5 to
Yeah.
7 cast members, and normally a couple of them play instruments, and then a couple kind of don't. Like they play like little percussion instruments or something. But when we were casting it, we wanted every single person to play an instrument, and most of them as many as humanly possible.
Totally.
And so we had like this unbelievable cast that were like incredible vocalists,
Oh my
could
gosh.
play like a million instruments.
Do you remember that casting? Do you remember that casting? Like casting that show? Do you remember like we like made them jam on the spot? It was kind of mean, but it was kind of nice.
It was so much fun because we wanted the show to be a really organic musical experience, and wanted it to feel almost at times more like a concert than a musical.
Yeah.
And we knew that we were also going to like rearrange the show based on the actor's skill set.
Yeah.
So like one of the things we did is we set the show up, or set the rehearsal room up like a jam session.
Right.
So like this is so we had like couches all over the place, and big there's RJ, here he is.
Where am
We had like chairs and couches and stuff, and so it wasn't set up like a traditional rehearsal room.
Yeah.
And there were just like instruments all over the place, and we turned it into like a jam session, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Look at these folks. So much fun. So that was like how the rehearsal process was set up, right?
Yeah.
But then the other thing that you did so well is the actual arranging of the songs. And so I have like a little, I wanted to show people what I meant by like RJ arranging a song and sort of what you start with and then what you end up getting. So one of these, this song is, it's like traditionally, I think, the Act 1 closer. Let's see here. Here we go. So it's called Be Good or Be Gone. I hope I'm starting at the right spot.
Okay.
So this is what the song, and it's a great song, and this is what it originally sounds like.
Okay.
Oh wait, that's not the right spot. Oh wait, maybe it is. Let's just start there. It's fine. You'll get it.
Okay. It's really soft, but I can hear it.
Right. So that's what we started with, right? And it's a great tune, but the actor that was singing that song is Sarah Porkalob, who definitely has her skill sets. And so RJ, talk about like the things that you wanted to beef up about it and change to sort of fit Sarah.
Yeah. So after meeting Miss Sarah Porkalob, and hearing her sing, I'm like, we have to break this song open, because she's finishing the act, and I want to feature all kinds of ranges from Sarah Porkalob. So I remember you sent me like a list
hold on,
songs.
hold on. Could everyone hear that? I just got a comment that you can't hear it. Could people hear that?
It was really soft.
Oh, it was? Oh no. I wonder why it was so soft.
I don't know.
Oh, here, let's try this.
Okay.
We're gonna try that again. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. Sometimes check this on next window. Share the screen. We're gonna do this again.
Okay.
It's gonna be great.
Okay, it's gonna be amazing. There
It's gonna be amazing.
Okay.
This. Let's try this. Let's try this again.
Okay.
Is that better? Okay, great. Now we heard it? We heard it?
Yeah.
Thumbs up, we heard it? Great.
I heard it.
Okay, so now talk about what you wanted to change a little bit.
Okay, so I wanted to break open the sound for Miss Sarah Porcala because she is a force to reckon with, and really show her range like as full as possible, and the act. So we're like, why don't we begin playing with some keys and then begin to find a way to expand it from there. And it was just a matter of like figuring out, with the singer in the room, like you always have to go in with a plan, because if you don't go in with a plan, you just end up, I think, wasting a lot of time. So you have to go in with a plan. And I was actually working with a really awesome associate for that show, Michael Nutting. I hope you're watching. You're awesome. Together, he and I would like meet before to kind of talk through stuff. And then we would bring it to rehearsal and begin to play, just literally play with Sarah Porcala. I'm like, what if you make this a little higher? What if I need an alternate note for this? Okay, we're gonna do a key change here. How does this sound? And then when we built it, we record it and then we transcribe it.
Yeah, and so some of the things that are different, like we made a really concerted effort to try to make the show sound a little more modern, a little more like what contemporary blues and pop and country sounds like.
Yeah.
So we used a lot of like Mumford & Sons and blues. And this one in particular is there's a blues artist named Shemekia Copeland that we based off of some of her sound. So it's faster. The drum beat is different. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So here's like a little. This is like a super. Maybe I'm not supposed to show you all this, but that's okay.
Okay.
So this is the actual performance.
Oh my God.
That I maybe shouldn't have taken from the back of the house. Ha! Got more driving.
Yeah. Alternate notes.
Ready? Keep dancing. Okay, now I'm gonna also just play the end here.
And the audience was like,
what's happening? So
oh
funny.
my gosh, that was some good times. That was good. That's been like 4 years now. About 4 years? 4 years old? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh.
So that's an example of sort of what RJ does when he like arranges a song. So we have in the last like 10 minutes, we've had some questions for you, RJ.
Oh my gosh.
How exciting. Well, first of all, everyone is very, very much wants you to know that Candace is here, is
Hi,
watching.
Candace!
What? Okay. What's a musical that you're wanting to do that you haven't yet?
Um, okay, this is controversial.
Controversial. Oh, are we gonna have a fight about this musical?
No, not with you. I think people have so many schools of thought about this, but I'm just gonna say it. I have never done Miss Saigon. I have not, and that show, because of like Lea Salonga and like the meaning of that for the Filipino theater community, is so special. I've never gotten to do it ever, like in any capacity, and I'm like obsessed with that show. Now I like the Broadway version from a few years back. The new version has like new lyrics and some new things, and I'm like, why? But I don't know. I That's one of my like dream shows that I have
Yeah,
not
that's
done
fair.
yet.
That's
That's
totally fair.
but it's
Um,
like not exactly the most PC show or anything, but
right. It's
emotionally it's
yeah. It's it's a totally a thing where a show can be kind of like uh, uh, a little dusty and a little of another time,
yeah,
where people weren't thinking as clearly about representation and inclusion and things like that. That
yeah,
can still have a really profound impact on you.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So those that don't know, RJ also works a lot with our Kid Stage program, which is our youth education program. We have a question from Julie Christensen Bailey. We'd like to know what's the difference between working with kids versus working with adults.
That's a great question. And actually, I get asked that question a lot for some reason. But the main the main thing that I've observed, like kids are honest. They will tell you if they don't understand something or they don't like something or something is working for them. That's like a strategy of like memorizing or placement on your vocal cords or whatever. And they will just tell you. I think adults, because we're more careful about the energy that we give out in a room. I think some adults are not really telling you all the time how they feel about a certain coaching you did or a certain key or note or whatever, and there's a lot of doubt around it. But when kids don't get it, they're like, I don't get it. Or like, how do I get that note? I can't find that note. How do I get that note? And when they do, it's like the reward is so joyful, and adults do that too for me. But when kids, because a lot of them, it's like their first time getting it. You're like, I just sang harmony, and I've never sung harmony before. Like that's extra special. So that's
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question. But yeah, that's the main
We're,
difference.
we're answering audience questions right now, so if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments field. Here's our next one from someone you know and love, Miss
Hi,
Iris
Iris.
Elton, who was in the Heights with you.
Yes.
What are your top three greatest influences that motivated your involvement in musical theater?
Three greatest influences. Okay. Okay.
And I'm assuming that could be like people or shows or artists or
Yes. I come from a family of musicians, so there was always music in the house. And I think like the number one influence was like my family unit. Like my sister plays instruments, my brother, of course, some of you know, and I collaborate on some stuff. My grandma taught me music. My dad, when he was alive, played guitar. My mom plays piano and sings. So there's always like music in the house. Like number one influence is a family unit which had a lot of music all the time. I remember listening to the Brown album of Jesus Christ Superstar, like on vinyl as a kid. Like I was like maybe 6 or 7, maybe. And I would listen to it on vinyl already. And that, like that was a profound impact. So that's number one influence. Number two influence, I think, is like, I hate to admit it, but like those big mega musicals, like the 80s musicals, like Fan of the
anyone
Opera,
anyone that knows RJ knows he loves a mega musical.
like yeah, it's like I said, Miss Saigon, Fan of the Opera, like Les Mis, like seeing Les Mis on stage for the first time. There was something about that kind of
Martin Gare.
Martin. Wow, that's like a deep cut. Wow, good job, Ray.
Martin Gare is like a flop. Booble and Schoenberg, right? Booble and Schoenberg wrote it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Booble and Schoenberg are the writers of Les Mis and Miss Saigon,
and also
uh,
Pirate Queen.
and the Pirate Queen, another deep cut. And Martin Gare is like their show after
Yeah,
their two huge hits, and it was kind of a flop, but some people love it.
yeah. and Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, like, let's just call it like Phantom Cats. Evita was a big influence on me. Like,
Mm.
so I mean, to me, that's a big influence. Those kinds of writers. Now, I don't. Now I look back at them and like, oh, I'm glad I knew them that early. But they had something where you could actually like sing their songs, and that, for a young kid like listening to musical theater, like that was a cool thing. Like, I remember these tunes. I would like go to the piano and pick out their melodies because they
Hmm.
were so easy to pick out. So that's another big influence.
All right, and third.
The third one to me is like, I oh my gosh, this is the hard one. I think it's just the being around a community of people like Seattle. Listen, like Seattle has got it pretty good. Like Seattle has a lot
Yeah.
more things going for it than I think some people take credit for. But where I can be, an arranger, a music director, an accompanist, a coach, like, and work consistently. I mean, hopefully all the time. Like, that is a special thing, and that actually influences me to continue to do it because it's one of those like I never take that for granted, and if I do, I go right back, and because I'm like, this is so good.
Yeah.
And that's a big influence on why I do what I do, because the return of investment here in Washington, Seattle, is so great. The support we get from patrons and other artists is actually pretty strong compared to a lot of other cities. So
Okay, here's
yeah.
another. Yeah, oh, that's yeah. If you have more, go for it. Here's
Yeah.
a very important question.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Ah,
Pork adobo or chicken adobo?
chicken
Kristen,
adobo, man.
Kristen's friend wants to know.
Chicken adobo. My
I
mom made
agree.
the
Chicken adobo
best.
was definitely better.
My mom just made me actually for Easter. I like social distance with them, so I picked up like a doggy bag from like 6 feet away. No, I got to say hi to them. It wasn't just like picking it up and leaving. But she made me like a take home pack of chicken adobo and rice. It's gone now. It took 3 days, but it's gone. And chicken adobo all the way, all the way.
Hard hitting questions here at Happy Hour at Village Theater. Um, I think we're gonna probably, if you have more questions, please ask them. We're gonna wrap up kind of soonish here, but I have some like, uh, uh, I had the idea just recently from a Village staff member to do like Village's version of like, like inside the actor's studio, and James Lipton would like ask his questions at the end.
Yes.
I have a couple. I have a couple just like
Rapid fire. Rapid
yeah, I
fire.
mean, kind of rapid fire. Oh, there's only a couple.
Okay.
But like, what's your we talked about like musical you haven't done yet that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite musical ever? You get one.
Oh my
You
god!
get one.
Are there parameters of like?
Whatever favorite musical ever means to you.
Oh my god!
That
Um.
could be the favorite one you've worked on. I don't think it should be favorite one you've worked on. I think it just be favorite musical ever.
Oh my gosh, that's a really hard question. First of
Oh,
all,
but like you've never had this conversation before. Come
I have
on.
many favorites, but I have to go with I. Oh my god, this is so hard. Uh, I love. I just love Miss Saigon. I think there's just something about. Oh my god. Okay, Naomi.
Naomi knows
There's
you.
something about that show, like emotionally, like backstage stuff with that show, the songs, the story, the strength behind it, and there's a lot of close seconds and thirds, like
Sure.
Ian Brandon, like Once on This Island, Violet, Spitfire Grill, Les Mis, like those are like other follow up shows. Dreamgirls, come on,
Yeah.
Dreamgirls, but
Uh,
Miss Saigon.
yeah. Okay. All right. Here's a tricky one that I maybe should have told you about this one earlier. What is your a show that you have worked on personally that didn't get enough credit?
Oh
Do you know
no!
what I mean? Like that show
Yes.
that you're
Okay.
like,
Yes. Yes.
why didn't people like it, or why didn't people come see it, or why
I
didn't
have
it
one.
win a million awards? What is it?
Violet.
Hmm.
I worked on Violet at Arts West, and I think it was just the time that it was being presented or how it was advertised or something. I don't know. We had good audiences, and I had such a solid team and cast, and crew, like
I
everybody on
saw
that.
it. Brenna Wagner was so
Yeah,
good.
Reno. I mean, come on, like seriously, and like working there, like with Andrew Russell, Jessica. I mean, there's just so many great things happening with that production. But for some reason, it's a hard sell. That show's a hard sell, I think, for people. Maybe now less so, but when that they had just released the new version when we were doing it.
Oh, when Sutton
Um,
Foster did it on Broadway.
you and Sutton Foster did it on Broadway, and like I've always loved that show, and to do it so soon after the Broadway revival, which was I had a very mixed bag of people liking it and not liking it. I think it didn't get enough credit, and I wish many things. I wish we ran it longer. I wish we had a bigger budget. I wish we had more time to show it to people. I don't know. So I wish it got more credit than it deserved because it was really special. I think all
Yeah.
of us knew it was special when we were doing it. And if anything, that was great. Like that was awesome.
Oh, this is
Oh,
Kristen's
Christian.
first show.
Oh yeah, he connected with me right after that. He's like, "You're Filipino and you do musical theater. I'm Filipino and I do musical theater." Awesome.
Next one. What is your favorite Village Theater memory?
Oh my God. Uh wow. I mean, I would
There's a
have to.
lot of them. You've been doing this for a long
There's a
time.
lot. I have to. I mean, I have to say when like, ooh, I get a little emotional talking about this. When I finally got to do Dreamgirls, which is a show that I had been talking to Steve Tompkins because a lot of this has to do with Steve Tompkins. He like totally believed in me to get me as far as I've gotten. So, and I knew that Dreamgirls may have been his last show at Village. That was like the speculation. Was it was extra special because the room was so like electric with like new talent and great cast, and then the orchestra was full and big, and like that first like downbeat of that show was like extra special. So the memory is like that opening night of Dreamgirls was like for me like unbelievable because it was like a
Mhm.
dream show, dream cast, dream mentors. Yeah,
Yeah, man,
that
and that cast was full of like star makers.
seriously.
Like there were some people that
Yeah,
had done some shows at Village before, but like
yeah.
Lauren Dupree, star turn as
Oh my God.
Dina. Alexandria
Alexandria.
Henderson's like burst onto the scene. Nathaniel Tenenbaum burst onto the
Yeah.
scene. Like,
Angela Burchett just did that Clark Sisters movie on Lifetime. I don't know if y'all saw
yeah,
it.
our Angela Pritchett, who played
Effie.
Effie, was on the Clark Sisters on Lifetime. I have it on DVR. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. I'm like,
It was. I was reading about it. It's Lifetime's like highest rated uh, uh, show in like 45 years or something.
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. There were many other memories before that one, but that's the most recent one that I really like. That's special. That's
Steve,
special.
speaking of Steve,
Yeah.
I was like, we're in quarantine, so we're all just like finding things to take up our time. And I was going through a bunch of like old videos, and I went on Instagram Live when Steve Tompkins had his retirement
Oh.
celebration. So Village put on this huge a goodbye party basically for Steve
Mm-hmm.
that was at the theater and had like 4 or 5 performance numbers. And these performance numbers were like the opening was Comedy Tonight, and there were like 25 of Steve's favorite comedic actors all taking a solo in Comedy Tonight.
Yeah.
And then there was I
One
think
day
was it
more with like
there
all
was
those people.
Dreamgirls,
Yeah.
like
Oh
and
yeah.
all the like favorite women in Steve's career were doing Dreamgirls.
Yeah.
It was nuts. And then at the end, the cast of Les Mis reunited and sang One Day More, plus all of these other extra people from Steve's life that came on stage. That ended up being like probably 40 people on stage.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Catherine Van Meter was the one that sort of like masterminded this whole thing. Her and Tim Simons
Oh yeah. Yeah.
had given the entire uh, uh, audience the music to One Day More, and the whole audience stood up and turned to Steve and sang like the end of the of that song, and it was
Yeah.
like out of this world.
Unbelievable.
Out of
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah.
Favorite ice cream?
Strawberry.
Oh,
Yeah. No question. Strawberry.
um,
Okay, because we're quarantining right now, I'm gonna confess something. So I've like eaten more ice cream than maybe I should have, but I take it from you because you're an ice cream lover. I know, but like
I am indeed.
I like wanted to like I'm not gonna eat a whole pint of Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream, and I didn't. So don't worry.
But there's fruit in it, so it's healthy.
I was like, I was at Target the other day and I was like, I need to get another flavor. And I was like, who am I kidding? I want the strawberry and I don't care. I don't have to try a new flavor. So
No, you
strawberry,
don't.
I don't have to try a new flavor.
Favorite chain restaurant?
I mean, Applebee's. That's where
Ugh,
many things happen. You
I
and
will
me.
never understand your
Or
Applebee's.
actually Cheesecake Factory.
See, that's the winner.
I think that's the chain. That's the chain. Applebee's graduated to Cheesecake Factory. So
Your
that's
tastes have evolved,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
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 Oh, look who joined us. Daniel Cruz, who's the
Oh,
choreographer for
Daniel.
Dreamgirls
He was a choreographer for Dreamgirls
and In the Heights
and In the Heights.
and
Uh,
Beauty and the Beast.
I didn't do that show, but probably.
And I'm just trying to think of the other. Also, the artistic director, do you call it that? Of Cruise Control?
Oh.
Yeah, his hip hop dance group.
Fancy.
Fancy. All right, everybody, this is your last chance to ask RJ any questions you may have.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to have to ask them fast because otherwise we're going to go.
Are you bored yet? Seriously.
Are you enjoying this?
Are you
Tell
enjoying
us.
this? I feel like
we have nothing to do, so we could go on for forever. This is literally what happened last week with Diana.
Yeah.
We got to like 45 minutes and we were like, does anyone like this? Is this interesting?
I know, because it's weird because you don't get, I mean, except for like the comments, you don't get like feedback. I mean, like in a room.
Yeah, you can't be like, oh, everyone thought that was hilarious. They laughed.
I'm like sitting here going, are they enjoying what I'm saying? Am I making sense? Not really sure.
Who knows?
But yeah.
Watching any good shows lately?
Oh.
I assume you mean TV shows, Paul.
Oh yeah. I watched, let's see, I binge watched The Good Place because that was a big recommendation from a few people. So that's probably the latest good show that I've seen. You guys should watch that show. That's an amazing writing.
I've heard it's great.
It makes you think about, especially what we're in right now, about priorities in life, and can I share one thing about the show that really is like so timely when I watched it? I watched it before quarantine, but I want to rewatch part of it again because at the end they said like heaven.
Well, are you going to give spoilers? Is this a spoiler?
No, this is not a spoiler, but I will say one of the
say
themes,
it without spoilers.
Yeah, one of the themes is a spoiler-free version. One of the themes is about finding the time to spend with people you love, or what you love, and that's what we've always like. That's one of the things that I think about during this quarantine that we're in is like, wow, I actually have time to kind of read this article or read this book or play this song on the piano. Like I played piano for myself for the first time in a long time in quarantine, which is kind of awesome. But like that's one of the things that kind of show does for you now. So go see it. It's really good.
Well, what you just said sort of leads into this next question. I love that people are asking questions now. Ask away.
Oh, good. Great.
Makes it a lot easier for me. I don't have to think about things. Carmen wants to know, are you working on any original music?
Oh my gosh.
Carmen, this is a great question because I have always bugged RJ and tell him that he needs to write something. And he won't. He just refuses. You're so good at arranging and like making other people's music sound even better that I feel like you could write something great. I'm just saying.
Well, okay. So the last thing I like wrote was like my sister's processional. Like she asked me to write like her wedding processional. Yeah, so I wrote her her wedding processional as she walked down the aisle. That was pretty cool.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah.
What about? Do you remember? Oh, this is going into the vaults. Do you remember the boy band musical you were writing?
Oh, that's a deep cut. Oh my god. Let's see. Yeah. So
you guys, RJ was writing a boy band musical. It was so. Some of those songs were bops.
They were good.
Yeah.
It was called like Etc. I think was the name of the. Well, I hope I didn't give that away. But Harry Turpin and I were writing it together, and it was like this boy band musical, Etc. And then one of the songs was like Midas Touch, and it's like, you got the Midas touch.
I can't. I have
Like,
to stop.
it was it was really good. It was like, so I don't know. I honestly, I'm just not as compelled to do it.
And
I
that's
feel,
fair. That's fair.
yeah, I love like looking at other shows and kind of seeing how I would do it, like, but never actually doing it, but just like in my head.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I
Well,
like
and
imagine.
you're so good at guiding new musicals
Oh
and composers and that kind of stuff. We haven't really talked about the new musical stuff
no,
you do. The
no.
last big one you did was Howard Barnes on the main stage.
Howard Barnes, there, yeah, man. Chris and Michael, Chris Diamond, Michael Kuman, if you're watching, I don't know, but hi. They
Well,
were.
they're actually going to be our happy hour guests next week. So Michael Kuman and Chris Diamond, who wrote The Noteworthy Life of Howard Barnes, that was on our main stage last year, are going to be our guests next week.
That's awesome. They're so cool, and we also did a cast album actually, and we
Yes, we
recorded it.
did.
We recorded it in Seattle. Like Michael and both of them were so ecstatic. I mean, Brandon, of course. I mean, like you cast a show. We cast a show in Seattle, and like finding those people, they really love that sound that we did in Seattle. That version, they made a cast album, and we recorded it in Seattle. So,
yeah, with the Village cast. If you haven't listened to it,
cast,
you can find it on iTunes and Spotify and
yep.
Prime Music or whatever.
And also
that's a
the
thing.
Village Orchestra, like
yeah,
the original players from the orchestra played that on that cast album.
Oh,
so,
and it sounds so good.
So great! What a dream!
Oh, here's another question. Thank you for the questions.
Yeah.
What is your favorite new musical or festival musical?
New musical? Oh my god!
That Village has done. New musical that you've worked on at Village.
Okay. Okay. I've worked on a Village. Oh well. I mean, I love making tracks. Like seriously, is that considered new? I hope so.
Because, well, yeah. I mean, like show that Village has developed. Yeah.
I mean, y'all, if you're not ready for making tracks, if you're not, I mean, it's this coming season. I hope it's still happening. It's in the spring. It's gonna be a revive. It was done in 2003, but it's gonna be updated a little bit, and it's 2020, so there's gonna be some new stuff in it. And that show is super magical for not just for Asian Americans, but like definitely for any musical theater enthusiast, or just it's like just a journey story, and I think everybody can relate to that. That's probably my favorite new musical at Village Theater. Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. And you got to go in the recording studio with Lea Salonga.
You know about that?
For making tracks. Oh, I know everything.
No, it wasn't for making tracks.
Oh, it wasn't?
It was no, but although oh my God, I'll tell you the story. This is a funny story because Jennifer Paz, hi, I don't know if you're watching. She sent me a message.
Is she watching? Jen Paz, Seattle Star, Jen Paz.
She and I go way back, and she was recording her solo album. Oh, this was actually a really good story. Yeah, she was recording her solo album.
Yes.
And she and I got to be really good friends making tracks in 2003. So that gives you a timeline. And she's like, I want to do For Good from Wicked, which had just come out like that year. Like the music was not even published, okay? I want to record that with Lea Salonga because I've always been her understudy for stuff, or I'll stand by her alternate, and we've done shows together. And I want to record with her. I'm like, great. So we're going to record in the same studio. She's like, no, we're going to record me. And then you're going to fly down to LA and record with her.
With Lea Salonga.
With Lea Salonga.
Tony winner, Lea Salonga.
I mean, seriously. So I've shit my pants, and they flew me down to LA. And I met with her in the studio, and oh my gosh, she was so professional. She was so nice. She was so prepared. And that arrangement of For Good, you should look for it. It's actually,
I mean, I have that album somewhere.
Okay, there is somebody pirated it and put it on YouTube. Look for it. And
okay. Everybody go search Jen Paz and Lea Salonga For Good.
For Good. The comments about, because I did something at the end that we actually asked permission from Steven Schwartz.
Yeah.
I did a little tweak at the end, and people have opinions about it, and I love that because that was the goal, and it's never been done that way ever since. But you should listen to it. And I recorded with her, and she was lovely. So that was 2003-ish. Then I did making tracks in San Jose rep, and at the end of the show, like the end of the show for Making Tracks, the band for that version, the band was on stage. So we were like playing the exit music, and I was like rocking out, right out, ta-da, ending, and I heard my name. It's like RJ, RJ.
Was it in a sensible mix? Was it like RJ?
Yeah,
A sensibly placed.
very well placed and
Well
well
placed.
pitched. And I hear this person running down the aisle, and I'm like, who is this person? She's like, it's me, Leia. I'm like, oh my gosh, she came and saw Making Tracks, and my life has never been the same. And she had such great things to say about it because she's actually on the
She's on the like studio recording.
The studio recording, and she's like brilliant on it. And she got to see it, and she loved it, and we got to exchange a little bit about again what we had just done with the CD, and what a memory. So yeah, that's my
also thinking Jen Paz has become like a big deal doing Steven Universe.
Oh yes,
she's one of the voices on Steven Universe. Lapid,
yeah, and Didi Magno also on that. I mean, there were a lot of
Didi, who was also in Making Tracks.
In Making Tracks at Village, yeah, it was the representation for that show is so good, not just for diversity for LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that is happening with cartoons.
Jinx Monsoon is a voice on it. Jared Hoffer.
I mean, the list continues. I think like Patti LuPone sang a song in it or something. I seriously, there's so many stars, and
I love that.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, well, I think we've reached the end. We've just passed the hour mark. Can you believe it's been an hour?
That was an hour.
Anyone wave if you've been here for the whole hour, because I'll give you like a prize or something. I don't know. I have nothing to give you. I'll give you like a fist bump or something.
I can't see them. I can't see who's watching.
If they comment, I'll let you know if anyone was here the whole time. Thank you all so much for coming. We're going to do the same thing next week with Michael Kumin and Chris Diamond, who are the writers of Howard Barnes, Noteworthy Life of Howard Barnes. Please join us next week. Thank you, RJ, so much for your time.
Welcome.
Yay.
Everybody stay safe. Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands. Stay safe. And join us.
Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. And join us a week from today.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye. Bye.